Hey everybody, welcome to Shifty's Club. Today is Thursday, and that means Magic the Gathering Standard. I'm going to try to keep this really short for you Magic players. Now, I'm not the smartest in the world when it comes to Magic the Gathering. However, I do know that most decks these days include many different, many different special lands. And these, you can only play 4 of in a deck. So people like to maximize the number of chances for them to get specific mana in specific combinations. The most obvious card and the most often played card is Mana Confluence. What does it do? Well, when you tap it, you pay a life and add any 1 mana to your mana pool. Now, the reason why everybody uses this is because it can be used as soon as you play it down. Most of your other lands that force you to enter it tapped are your opponent's least choice to play unless it comes with a cool effect like Scry 1, being able to set you up for either a good card or just a random guess. um, but anyway, what people don't know is that there are several cards that they can use to maximize their chances that aren't just dual landing cards. Hear me out. You have cards that do have potential, and then you have many more that just don't. For example, cards like Crucible the Spirit Dragon from the Fate Reforged set has absolutely no place in the metagame. Well, why is that? Well, for one, you can tap it for 1 colorless mana, or you can pay 1 and tap it to put a storage counter on it, and then you tap it and remove so many storage counters from it in order to use any mana to pay for only dragon spells or abilities. And that is absolutely horrible for a rare. Then you have cards like Darksteel Citadel, indestructible, but it only adds 1 colorless. Not cool. Then you have cards like Evolving Wilds. Now, this one might actually have a shot in the format because you tap it, sack it, and search for a basic land card and put it on tapped. That's the only problem is it has to enter tapped. Now, a lot of 4-color delve decks or even 5-color delve decks are using Evolving Wilds in order to get the different basic lands they need down so they don't have to argue over this dual land not having this one type and vice versa. And that's one of the few things that you see, and even cards like Haven of the Spirit Dragon from Dragons of Tarkir isn't even really as great, but it does have its effect. The only reason we run this card isn't for the tap to add 1 mana. It's not tap to add a mana of any color to your mana pool and spend it on to cast a dragon spell. We tap it, we pay 2 to tap it, sacrifice it, and return either a dragon or what we really return, Eugen, from our graveyard to our hand. And let's just say Hero's Downfall is a real buzzkill, but that card is literally just a perfect counter. And then you have plenty of other cards that can supplement everything else that have been talked about. You have Radiant Fountain, where it can enter and gain 2 life and use it just to tap colorless. You have Sliver Hive if you run slivers, which nobody does. You have several different temples, which are dual lands nobody likes. Tomb of the Spirit Dragon is absolutely worthless because nobody runs artifacts with green being as big as it is, and it's really known for taking out artifacts, and the deck would just fall in a heartbeat. But I do like where that one card goes. Urborg is okay. But the only problem with it is we have no Swamp Walk creatures, which means if your opponent has a swamp in play, then the defending player can't get their creatures to attack or block unless it has reach or flying, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've worked with Swamp Walk. I've never even really played the concept. Then you have a really interesting card. It's a common, but it's Unknown Shores. You can tap it at 1, or you can pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Now, why would this be anywhere near existent? Well, the reason why is because it's better than playing something like Springleaf Drum or even other cards that basically do nothing but tap other creatures or other cards in play instead of the mana you were already going to use. Now, of course, Unknown Shores isn't the best, but you can still run 1 or 2 copies of it in order to guarantee yourself that one color that you could use. Now, obviously, people aren't too fond of the Unknown Shores, but it's one card that's definitely worth talking about. But this card is probably be the best land in format. This card is Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. I've talked about this before, but this is absolutely the best land, and that's why it's a legendary land. Basically, here's how it works. You can either tap it to add 1, or you can pay 2 to tap it and choose a color, add to your mana pool an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. If I got that right. And devotion is no more than each color of mana that permanents have. Like, say for instance, you have a Courser of Crufix. You would count the number of count the number of mana required in a specific color to green. So we would take that and we would add 2 green. Now say we had 2 Elvish Mystics, 4 say we had 1 Courser, 2 Elvish Mystic, a 4 Forests, and maybe Anelia. I have no idea. Just say that might be a scenario worth playing out. That right there would yield so much mana. It'd be, I believe, 9 off of 2 mana. So I could use Elvish Mystic again, and altogether I could produce 13, I want to say 13 mana off of that alone. And then I can still give Trample, or just not use Elvish Mystic to tap. I can just attack with all together. It also works in this sense. Brutal Horde Chief is probably the best card in format, in my opinion. This card is absolutely destructive. I hate playing against it, but I love playing with it. And I have seen so many times where specific blue-black decks are absolutely tearing up with Nykthos. And most people don't understand some of the concepts behind, but it's basically a control, but it's a consistent control. It's not throwing instances and sorceries all around the place. It's basically controlling everything your opponent does, limiting their options altogether instead of countering this and countering that. And that's basically what the black's gonna do. Hero's downfall for 3, you know? And I'm sure everybody realizes exactly how good Nykthos is once they try it out. Now, since I'm already here, we're gonna list my top 5, starting with number 5, in lands for the format. Well, coming at number 5 is probably one of the few that I'd have to give very good headway to. and it's only because it works so well already in the format. And that card is Wooded Foothills. Think about how good red green aggro, uh, red green um, devotion, um, all these different decks. Think of how good they are. It is absolutely amazing. You play this, tap Pay a Life, and sack it and search for a mountain or forest card. And I like this because it allows you to play 4 of them and be able to pull out the mountain or forest you need, have you miss it. And that's exactly what I like about it, because sometimes you might not pull off an Elvish Mystic that you need, and that forest is not handy. Except, instead, you have, say, one Crone Crusader, I don't know, just any one red creature that costs 1 red, and you have Wooded Foothills. I mean, it's great. You have several other things. Doing damage straight to an opponent for 1 red is great, but Wooded Foothills provides more coverage in almost so many more viable metagame decks in Magic the Gathering than most other cards do. Another one that I'm not going to say it's great, but people seem to love it, and that's Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. Now, why is this in so many decks? Well, it's because once it gets down, every land is swamp. Now, of course, there's not Swamp Walk, but this could help so much in so many other people's decks. Now, going into the library is very, very hard in this game, because things like Court of Calling, Disciple of Deceit, they have to go fetch everything out. Disciple of Deceit can't fetch it out because it doesn't really have a mana cost. And Court of Calling already takes 3+X, and that's not even enough because you can't search it out. So that's why I'm going to be nice and put it in 4th, but it is great once it gets down because you can use it every land you have in play as if it were swamp. The third one I'm going to put in play is one of the few that I'm not going to say it's the best choice for third, but it's definitely, how do I want to say this? It's definitely made itself known. And I'm sure everybody knows that Haven of the Spirit Dragon is a great land card. We're still trying to figure out exactly how well it is in certain numbers. So we want to perfect the amount to run in a deck, because it's easier to get Eugen back out so we can play higher numbers of Eugen just to, kind of get everything running perfectly. But being able to pull off Eugen out of the discard pile is absolutely amazing. So that's why it takes number 3. Number 2, well, this is my number 2. My number 2 is Unknown Shores, and only for one reason. You take an already tapped mana and tap it and add a mana of any color to your mana pool. Fits in with every single deck. Now, obviously, probably not everybody's favorite, but still, it does work. And obviously, you know what? You all know what's going to be number 1. It's going to be Mana Confluence. Mana Confluence is absolutely wonderful. It pretty much just gives you whatever mana you want. So I like it. Now, Nykthos is a great, great strategy in many dual type decks. You have to be very careful how you run very particular cards, because you need a high creature count, or even a high artifact or enchantment count in order to use Nykthos to the best of its ability. For example, I used a white It's basically it's a little bit of blue, but it's mostly white, and it's a white blue heroic devotion deck. But as everybody knows, heroic is more favored in the white, and blue is only used for very specific circumstances like um, aqueous form, being able to take with Heliod's Pilgrim and stuff. So Nykthos is great, but it can't be used as in many different situations. Even in specific decks, it can't fly around as usual as everybody else would love it to. But then again, this is my list, guys. I know I'm not perfect, and I expect everyone to disagree with me, and I hope you do. I really hope you do, because you know what? I'm not the best at Magic the Gathering. I never will be, and I promise you guys that. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to let you guys go. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. Post any comments you have in the comment section down below. And as always, I hope you guys had as much fun as I had, and I'll see you guys next time at Shifty's Club.